the Natural Doctors. I'm Dr. Jennifer Stagg.
And I'm Dr. Katie DiNello. We're so glad that you're joining us today. We thought that it would be really fun to do an episode on some hot topics and things that we really enjoy. And things that we wish everybody would do for their health based on what we do personally and based on what we help our patients with. So we're going to get into it. Our first topic today is all about sleep. So Dr. Jen, what is your favorite thing to recommend for patients as a tool to help them sleep?
Yeah, so obviously, we have a lot of patients that deal with sleep issues, and we're always trying to help them strategize around getting good quality sleep, getting to sleep more easily. And probably my favorite tool over the years has been this basically it's a sleep gratitude practice, but it's a little bit more specific than just what are you grateful for. It's more sort of reflecting back on your day. So it's really quite simple. So I just tell them to start with reflecting back and come up with the 3 times during the day when they felt their best. And so it could be something really simple, they held the door open for someone, or, some interaction, they smiled at someone, something very simple. And you just kind of, that evokes that a feeling of emotion. That's what's really important, instead of just making a list of things that you're grateful for. Because sometimes with that, you're still up in your head, right? Yeah. So that's a great practice to get you into that emotional state that would really help you have better quality sleep.
Yeah, I love that because yes, it's going to help quiet your mind, right? Because so many of our patients struggle with that anxiety, mind is racing. Evolutionarily, our brains have developed to always want to be thinking about the threats around us, right? What's the next thing? So it's really hard to quiet our brains. So I love that, number one, it accomplishes that.
Yeah.
But number two, it goes deeper than that, because it really is about looking back on your day and actually recognizing those turning points in your day that maybe, took you out of a bad mood and, made your day a little bit happier. You were a little bit more grateful or thankful for something that, when we're so busy, it's just okay, whatever, moving on to the next thing. But when you reflect back on those key moments, it's oh, wow, that really was a turning point for my day. And it turned my whole day around.
Yeah.
So I love that it kind of accomplishes both, right?
Yeah. No, it's so great. And I've had really good feedback on it with patients over the years. It's something that I do personally. So I just love that as a kind of a sleep hygiene practice, I guess we could call it.
Yeah.
What do you like?
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm going to preface this with it's a little bit funny. So I am in a stage of life with 2 little children. As you know, I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So putting a toddler to bed is very challenging sometimes. And our son is in a stage where he loves for us to tell him a story. So my husband and I were reflecting on this recently, and both of us, and it's separately, our son will say, I want mommy or I want daddy tonight to tell me the story. But both of us separately agree that telling a story is the fastest thing to put you to sleep. So our toddler won't sleep, but we will fall asleep telling the story,
so
right?
Awesome. Yeah.
And so my husband and I were joking one night, and he was like, you should just tell your patients to tell their spouse a story or themselves a story, because it literally puts you to sleep. So it really did have me thinking, because I'm okay, what is it about this storytelling that puts me to sleep? And it comes back to your brain just shutting off and focusing on something a little bit more simple and mundane.
Yeah.
So, if you're up for it, go tell your spouse a story or something, right? That is funny like that, or yourself. But I think on an even more basic level, it comes down to what can we do to quiet the mind. So other things include playing a podcast, I think is a great idea. There are bedtime stories on Spotify, so I really like having my patients do that. Or if anxiety is really the root cause, write down what you're thinking, that to-do list, right? I work with a lot of moms, And so their brain is constantly going, as you know, right? You know, they're thinking about, oh my gosh, you know, my kid is outgrowing those shoes, or those socks have holes, or who's wearing what for the holidays. So write those things down on a notepad so that they're not stuck in your brain.
Yeah, I think about that too. It's kind of like that kind of concept of just dumping stuff, right? So I do, like, I keep a notepad by my bed because I'm like, I don't want to have to like get up. I don't want to get on my phone and like write in my list. So I'll make if it's something that I know, like, okay, I need to write that down. I remember I need to get that done. Then I just dump it onto that list so it doesn't stay with me. Yeah. That's great. I love that.
It works. Yeah. Perfect. All right. I think that's pretty good for sleep.
Yeah.
Let's move on to energy. What is a tool that you are telling your patients that helps with low energy?
Yeah. So, you know, obviously, like, and we'll talk about this in the next episode, like thinking about things that are like, what are all these causes of low energy, of course. So, like, as a doctor, those are the types of things that we look into. But if, you know, we're just trying to, there's not really a great medical cause for their fatigue, then one of the things that I often recommend is like gentle movement, basically, right? So this needs to be not necessarily like working out per se, but it's still using your body. So yoga is probably my favorite thing to recommend, and doing it at home. And it doesn't even have to be a lot. And even like with patients that I have who have like chronic fatigue syndrome and, you know, have this sort of like always present low grade fatigue, doing like 10, 15 minutes of yoga. I love this app called Down Dog Yoga, and that's what I use. And you can adjust it. So like on certain days you have more time, you could do 40, 50 minutes.
Right.
But a lot of days, like I might only get in like a 15-minute session. So it really does like getting in tune with your body. And with yoga, there's a lot of like breath work that also goes into it. So I love that. Qigong would be another option too. Like there are great videos that you can follow, and that really gets like the chi moving in the body. And so that's what I really love as a tool to help with energy. Yeah,
I love that. And I think it's counterintuitive for a lot of our patients when they come in, and one of the first things patients will tell me is, I just don't have the energy to even move. And I understand that, right? I hear where they're coming from, but really that only continues the cycle of fatigue to not move your bodies. I tell patients we were designed to move, right? We truly were. And so many of us just sit all day, right? And you know, like we're seeing patients all day. We are sitting at our desk all day, right? And I know that I feel significantly better when I am starting my day or ending my day with some type of movement. Or we're lucky enough, we have a little bit of a rehab room in our clinic. So at lunch, I'll sneak in there and do some movements, lift some weights. Or if the weather's nice, I'll go, and even if it's just a light stroll around the building, I'm having to move. So it feels counterintuitive for patients, but when you explain that to them, they're like, okay, yes, I can do that. Right.
And I love that you brought up about like going outside also. If you can get outside, that's another thing that even like doing some actual movement, but getting outside and getting those like circadian light cues. It really is important for your body in terms of energy production. And so that's another thing that I'll often recommend, and I do myself. It's like, okay, get outside, and then if you can go barefoot, go grounding.
Even better.
Awesome. But this time of year, not so much.
Exactly. Well, you know, and I tell patients, so we're in the Northeast, New England, and I tell patients, look, it happens every year. It gets cold. I know it's a little bit harder, but that is what jackets were made for, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, get out there. Yeah, for sure. But barefoot grounding.
Barefoot, maybe that's a little bit different.
I did just buy these grounding shoes.
Oh, you did? Okay, tell us about these.
So they are... basically, they're, you know, leather, so they're not a synthetic, right? So, and then the base on the bottom, so they're pretty thin, but on the bottom, there's a little copper ring in there. So now, like, I've been pretty good braving the cold barefoot in the morning. Like, I'll bring the dog out and get outside. But, you know, the cold ground, once it, like, literally freezes, there's been a couple of mornings it's been pretty cold, and I've gotten the grounding shoes on. I'm like, okay, this is going to work this year. Yeah. So I'm going to I go outside, but I'm going to try the grounding as well.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, maybe I need to get a pair of
Get
these
the grounding
myself.
shoe.
Because, it is so refreshing, right? I think a lot of us have had that experience of when we step outside on a nice winter day, and that cool air is so refreshing. It does wake us up. I mean, heck, cold plunging is such a thing right now, too.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
it makes sense.
Right.
Okay, I love that. One of my go-to tools for energy is actually having people, do a caffeine intake of okay, how much caffeine am I actually having throughout the day? Because oftentimes we think, gosh, I'm so tired, I just need more caffeine, when it's usually the opposite, right? 1 cup of coffee per day, usually, or tea, usually does the trick for most people. So if people are telling me, I have 1 to 2, maybe 3 cups in the morning, or a lot of times, right, they're like, well, I'm having 1 cup, but
it's a giant cup.
a giant cup. And then they're needing a little bit more caffeine in the afternoon. Or an energy drink, right? Things like Celsius, Alani, these energy drinks have, 150 to 200 milligrams of caffeine. So a lot of my patients who exercise in the evening will have one of those before they work out. And then, of course, we can't forget, if you're snacking on chocolate in the afternoon or in the evening, that has a little bit of caffeine in it too. So I really have people take an inventory. And one of the first things I'll have them do is switch from a coffee to a tea, right? Like a matcha, which has L-theanine in it, or a green tea, which has less caffeine, plus the antioxidant benefit. So I love making that switch for people.
I love that idea, because people just get on that sort of how we talk about there's a vicious cookie cycle of, highs and lows with blood sugar, and then you just dive into something else that brings your blood sugar back up. It's the same thing, right, with caffeine and what it does to your brain, and you basically are, needing to rev up those receptors again, right? And so you think that you're tired, but it's really just oh, I need a hit for my brain.
Yes,
right?
caffeine withdrawal. Exactly, exactly. Okay, I think that's pretty good for energy. I mean, energy we could talk a lot about, because there are so many underlying factors. I think the one other thing I'll say about energy is, like I said, we see a lot of moms. So, they're often working, raising kids, managing the household. So there's a lot of mental tabs going on. And so it always is a push and pull of, asking my patients, is your level of fatigue appropriate for the amount that you're doing, right? Are we burning the candle at both ends type of thing? And when we take inventory of their days, sometimes it takes a third party to help them realize this, but a lot of times I'm like, you're doing a lot. So it makes sense that you're going to feel tired,
Right.
So that's something else that we talk a lot about.
I agree with that, right? So just our busy society, right? We are looking at social media. We're seeing all the things people are accomplishing. We have our to-do list, and it's just regular stuff. It's not even keeping up with other people.
Right.
It's just oh, you just assume that's normal because everybody else is doing it. And so then you're doing it. And it is. It's a lot. It's taxing. People don't take those breaks. Another thing I noticed that when I was wearing a wearable like an Oura ring, and I was tracking heart rate variability, and I did all sorts of things to, my heart rate variability was pretty good, but I'm like, okay, how can I boost this a little bit?
Right.
And literally the one thing that boosted it was basically laying down and doing nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're often just go, 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 go. That's hard on our adrenals.
It is.
It does affect, right, the vagus nerve,
Yeah.
and then that has an impact on the heart rate variability. So obviously, there's, we've got two ends of the spectrum where we're telling people to move, because some people are just feel like they can't move.
Right.
And then other people are just going nonstop all day. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that data. And research does support that on heart rate variability, how meditation, breath work, laying down, right?
Yeah, literally just do nothing for 10 minutes. I'm talking it doesn't have to be an hour, but if you're doing meditation, then that is a really great thing, because then you're resting your body and getting into those deep relaxation.
Yeah. And you and I, we were just talking about this. We have birthdays coming up, and I had said, I'm taking taking my birthday off from work, not seeing patients. But then I said, well, maybe I'll actually go into work and see patients, because what am I going to do? And you were like, just do nothing.
Yeah,
right?
like
Just
literally try to do like nothing, right? Like purposely, and it's hard, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though like you will kind of go like, oh, I wish I didn't have so much to do, then when you're faced with, okay, I'm going to try to do nothing, it's actually kind of like unsettling.
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And that's usually right. If that unsettled feeling comes up, it's usually a sign that, okay, we should probably, take
Slow
some
that
time
pace down. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on. What is one tool for mood that you recommend for patients?
Yeah. So I think this kind of ties a little bit into what we were talking about getting outside. But the biggest thing I would say, and that I'm telling patients all the time, is to get light exposure early in the day, right? So one of the first things you need to be doing, like, I have people like actually step outside, right? And I had a patient that we talked about this extensively, and she was just trying to figure out like, okay, how can she set up her day to really, get this quiet time, but also, we were working on high cortisol for her. And literally the one thing we changed was her morning routine. And we had done supplements and things and gotten, some decent results, but we're still, there was something missing. And now we changed her routine and retest her cortisol, and it like was the lowest it had ever been. And what was she doing? Walking outside first thing in the morning. Like she'd get a glass of water and she'd head outside, walk around in the backyard. This was in the summer when she started up with this. So I was talking to her about grounding shoes for winter, but she just like spends time outside, like walking around, like those light cues, being in nature as well. It's so uplifting to mood.
It is.
That's my number one thing, I would say. Yeah. How about you?
That. Yeah. Well, I will say I love that. And, we've all experienced that where, maybe not everyone experiences this, but I love being outside. I love hiking. I love mountains. And so when I have a day, even just one day where I'm in the office all day, I'm there late, whatever the case is, I'm like, I'm just craving being outside. And I think we need to listen to those cues more, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. Oh my gosh. And then to have that objective data that showed that the cortisol levels
I know.
decreased.
I was so excited for her.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I have two things. The first is sugar. We really need to be aware of how much sugar we're eating. Our mood is so sensitive to sugar, right? And that's from both blood, like actual what that sugar we're eating is doing to our blood sugar. So, if we're hyperglycemic or hypoglycemic, that's one thing, but it's also what the sugar does to our gut, right? And we know that added sugar is associated with more depression, more anxiety. So take inventory of how much added sugar you're having. I really don't think anyone would disagree with that at that point, right?
God,
Everyone feels better when they cut the sugar. So but it's hard to do, right? It's addictive. So that's something that we'll work a lot on with patients. But what I like talking about more, and especially with moms, right, is what are you doing for yourself, right? So often moms are sleep deprived, and so they're sleeping in as late as they can. They're waking up frazzled because their kids are either waking them up, or they're waking up to their kids, getting ready. Mom, can you do this? Can you do this? Right? And then you're trying to pack lunches or pack your own lunch or get breakfast on the table. The day is starting. You're trying to figure out who needs to be where, who needs to be picked up at what time, right? And then you're straight into work. Yeah. And what have you done for yourself besides maybe make a cup of coffee and maybe, make an egg or, have a piece of toast or something if you're lucky.
Right.
So then you're going to work, which is not for yourself, right? You're working for somebody else usually. And then you go home and you pick up the kid, right? Like, so what are you doing for yourself?
Yes.
And so I really encourage my patients to take an audit of their day. And, I say, I know you're exhausted. I know you're sleep deprived, but can you get up a half hour, 20 minutes early, just so you can meditate, journal, walk outside, even just sit quietly with your coffee, right? And just reflect on yourself and, the day ahead. it can make a really big impact on your mood.
Oh, absolutely. Like not sort of, because so many people are just like, they're sleep deprived. So then they're trying to max out their sleep and then they just like hit the ground running, right? Out of bed and it's on. And like, I get it, right? Especially if you have little kids and then, you know, your sleep is disrupted and you're really just trying to get those little couple more minutes.
Yes.
But even 15 minutes, right? 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
The extra sleep versus what it does to just like sort of your mental state is so significant that it's worth the little bit of, you know, little bit you're taking away from your sleep if that's an issue for you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
I love that idea.
Yep. Good. I think that's good for mood. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, right. Like those are the big ones. I would say the other thing I would say probably point out here, culture based as well, is social media, right?
Yeah,
like, yes, we're on social
true.
media, of course, right? But the amount of time that we spend on social media, like scrolling, and you know, it can really affect our mood, and it's like very well established, and especially for you know, teens and young people, it's just dramatic effects on mood. So taking the time to really certainly like be careful about what you're looking at online and sort of like curate your feed. So if you are looking at it, like when we look at our feeds, we joke about like some of the stuff that's coming in there. It's like funny videos, you know, but if you start looking at things that are targeted to create that sort of like fear response and negativity, it's going to load in more and more of that. And then, you know, what a terrible way to like relax at night and feel like, okay, you've had such a busy day. Let me like doom scroll. That'll make me feel better. Right?
Exactly. And then it's the perfectionism, the comparison, right? So I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I like that advice.
Yeah.
Okay. One tool for digestion. What would you say here?
Yeah, there's so many different things, right? Like that's such a big topic. You know, we always talk about digestion and the effect of like gut health with everything. I would say one of the tools that I think about, and you know, I have a little bit of bias because like on bitters.
But they're good. They work.
Yeah. So it's like for digestion, what I do recommend, obviously like reducing sugar is so key, but to help with that and just to aid digestion is starting each meal with something that's a little bit bitter. And there's a lot of different things that we don't even think about that are actually bitter. So like when you get up in the morning, if you had some green tea, that's technically a bitter, right? So if you started with some green tea, that's getting your body ready and like increasing your digestive capacity. And then lunchtime, like maybe you're starting with like a little bit of arugula, like that's bitter. So you just like start with some of those foods that are a little bit more bitter. Same thing with dinner, you know, like don't dive into the carbs, like start with those bitters. So all sorts of like green vegetables, tofu is bitter. You know, you really want to think about like how you're structuring your meals. And not only does that impact the digestion, it also impacts how we secrete insulin too, right? So this is going to help with metabolic control, which we know, you know, we deal with that with a lot with patients all the time. So for your microbiome as well. So not only does it increase those digestive secretions, eating more bitters in your diet also will sort of feed those good bacteria, right? Like we realize bitters are prebiotics, right? So it's such a cool thing that it just like has all these different effects in the body.
And it's so simple. It really, really is, right? It's not super expensive, doesn't take a lot of thought or effort. So I love that.
Yeah.
Great.
What about you?
I would say my one tool is we really want to minimize snacking and grazing in between meals because we have this thing called the migrating motor complex in our gut, right? As you know, which is kind of these like separate, you know, pushes of the nervous system in our gut of pushing food through our digestive tract. But that only comes into play if we stop eating, right? So, so many people, you know, maybe they're good between breakfast and lunch, but then after lunch, they're just kind of snacking until dinner, and then they're snacking after dinner. So really, if you have a lot of bloating, if you don't have like well-formed complete bowel movements, we really want to just focus on slightly larger meals, 4 to 5 hours in between those meals, so our nervous system and our gut can work really well and push that food and waste through so we can have those good bowel movements.
Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah, I love that. That's so important for digestion.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We are out of time. That was a fun episode. I liked that one.
Yeah.
We hope you all enjoyed it, and thanks for tuning in to The Natural Doctors. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube.
I'm your host, Kurt Barwis. Today, I have a very special guest, Dr. Andrew Lin.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Veterans Corner. My name's Chuck Wooden.
Decision for ourselves for this week, if we want to be made well.
Hi, welcome to the crack of dawn. It's Dawn Lombardi. I'm starting the painting. It's going to be the cliffs with some water. Love it.
He took me on the sets of Lost in Space, Batman.
Everybody has a story. What's yours? Until next time.
Sometimes life just happens. Don't worry. Farmington Motorsports will get you back on the road and at a fair price. From towing to tires, emissions to transmissions.
Our ASC certified techs do it all.
Farmington Motorsports is a family-run business. We're a Napa Auto Center and AAA approved. We work on all makes and models from preventative maintenance to major repairs.
And every repair is backed by our 2-year, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty.
When life happens to you, don't worry. Farmington Motorsports.